just point to the logo on my chest and tell them, Slam me, ego, Slam me, ego, Slam me, ego, Slam me, hey. Hit it up hard, hit it with a strike. From the national anthem to the bottom of the night. Amen. Slam me, ego, Slam me, ego, Slam me, ego, Slam me, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. We should know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 436 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here. It is August 1st, 2023, trade deadline day. And the San Diego Padres, they will be facing the Colorado Rockies later today, game 2 of that series. I already have my pregame thoughts out on that. But obviously the big storyline today is deadline day. And so I'm going to take you up to the Major League Baseball trade deadline, which is at 3 p.m. It's coming up quick. 3 p.m. Oh, Mets just traded for Tommy Pham. The Mets traded Tommy Pham to the Arizona Diamondbacks. So that just happened. Again, moves are happening quick. They're happening right now. And the Padres, they've already made a deal earlier in the day. We'll get to that. And we'll get to moves that they did not make, some moves that division rivals have made, some moves that division rivals tried to make, but got blocked by a certain player. We can get to that as well. There's a lot going on around Major League Baseball right now. If you want to join the show and give your thoughts on what's happening on the trade deadline here, leading up to this deadline, you can click that link that is pinned up at the top of the chat. If you want to make sure I get your comment or your question, you can use that super chat button. And that makes it very easy for me to see your comment, your question. Supports the channel as well. Just right off the top here, SeatGeek code Talking Friars, $20 off your order, and click that link in the description. Breaking Tea, great San Diego sports swag, Padres, Aztecs, and the San Diego Wave. Let's see what some people are thinking here in the chat. Again, as we are 12 minutes away from the Major League Baseball trade deadline, there could be moves that end up getting tweeted out after the 3 p.m. deadline because the paperwork has to happen and all that. But, you know, for Padres fans, obviously right now, we're just waiting to see if AJ is able to make another move, what moves are there, because there have been some past trade deadlines where AJ makes a move like at the last minute. You know, 2021, he traded for Jake Marisnick, and that was a very surprising move. I thought that was a move that didn't make sense. But, hey, sometimes those things will happen, and that's a surprise for all of us, and that's something that we can all react to here if a move like that does happen. Obviously, the big move, well, I don't want to say it was a big move because I don't think it was a big move, but the only move that the Padres have made so far on deadline day is they acquired Hill Choi and Rich Hill from the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they sent Jackson Wolf, Esterer Suero, and Alfonso Rivas to the Pittsburgh Pirates in that deal. I'll break that down here in a little bit after I get to some of these comments here, just for those that are already here in the chat live on YouTube. For the podcast listeners, if you want to be live with me on YouTube for the next time, subscribe to the YouTube channel Talking Friars, turn on the notifications so you don't miss when I go live. Someone here says, congrats to AJ Preller on officially tanking the season. Gets 2 mid players. Devin says, somewhat underwhelming trade deadline in general. Padres at least got a lefty DH and an innings eater. D-backs have made moves left and right. Yeah, Austin Hedges just became a Texas Ranger. So, yeah, there have definitely been some moves around the Padres. Some moves involving former Padres. I think Luis Patino got traded to the White Sox. But for now, let's focus on what the Padres have done today. Ji-Man Choi and Rich Hill coming to the Padres. This is a move that, as I said on my initial reaction video that I posted right when this move happened, and I was kind of reacting in live time to what the return was to the Pirates, the players the Padres got back. I said at the time, like, this is a move that Padres fans should have expected. Like, the Padres were in on Justin Verlander. I don't know how in on Justin Verlander they were, but that was a report from John Heyman earlier today. I don't think that move would have made sense for the Padres contract-wise, paying that huge salary. The Mets probably wanted Dylan Lesko like at the beginning of the package. Like that's the first thing that they probably wanted from the Padres. And I think AJ probably would have hung up on Steve Cohen and Billy Epler right there because he's not going to trade Dylan Lesko for Justin Verlander and have to pay over $40 million a year to Justin Verlander. I know the Mets are paying a lot of money to the Astros, who Verlander ended up going to, but that just still seemed, that trade seemed like a reach always from the beginning. AJ checks in on anyone and everyone. I just never saw that move happening. Like that was a long shot. I didn't think the Padres were going to be willing to give up what the Mets wanted. And I think the addition that the Padres were looking for in the rotation was going to be someone that's a back-end starter, right? They have the talent at the front of this rotation. They have the best pitcher in baseball right now in Blake Snell. They have Joe Musgrove. They have Yu Darvish. Seth Lugo's pitched well out of the rotation for the most part this season, I think. They have Michael Wacha coming back, hopefully, and he'll be healthy. So I think they just needed at least one more depth guy, and Rich Hill can be that guy. I mean, he has a rubber arm. And a move was just made. Baltimore Orioles, they acquire Jack Flaherty. Wow. That was a guy that I thought maybe the Padres would try to go get because I don't think that would cost the Padres a whole lot. It's a rental. But they get Rich Hill, obviously, and they, combine him with Ji-Man Choi in that package from the Pirates. Yeah, so Tommy Pham to the D-backs, Jack Flaherty to the Orioles, and that's the latest right now that I'm seeing. Every once in a while, I'm going to look down at my phone to see what notifications are going on because I want to make sure I'm not talking about something and then a move happened 20 minutes ago that I don't get to. Where was I with the Rich Hill stuff? Just the move on the margins. It's a move that should have been expected. Justin Verlander didn't think that was ever going to happen, realistically. Now, Rich Hill and Ji-Man Choi, I like the move for the San Diego Padres here because it makes the team a little bit better depth-wise, and it doesn't kill the farm system. I still believe that this team's not going to go all the way and win the World Series. I thought this team, it would have been smarter for them to sell Blake Snell, sell Josh Hader, maybe even sell Seth Lugo because he's pitching good enough to decline the player option and just go get a better contract in free agency, So I was a proponent of that, but since we know the Padres were not going to do that, especially after sweeping the Rangers over the weekend, I wanted this team to make moves on the margins, right? Don't go get someone that is going to cost you Jackson Merrill, Dylan Lesko. Get someone like Rich Hill, someone like Ji-Man Choi, someone that is a short-term deal. I would have been fine with someone like Dylan Carlson. I liked him. I know he's not having the best year, but long-term deal, not making a ton of money, outfield, another bat, I would have been fine with that. But if they're not going to have someone like that, short-term, low salary, it's not this huge splashy move, but it does improve the ball club a little bit, again, depth-wise. And the message to the players is, okay, we added a couple pieces here. If this is the only moves that the Padres make, again, we got 5 minutes till the deadline at 3 p.m. Maybe some moves happen after that, but we got 5 minutes. If this is the only move the Padres make here, they can say, we believe in you guys. But, if you want to turn this around, if you want to go make the postseason, the additions were not going to be coming from, if this makes sense, the additions were not going to be huge additions. They were going to be small additions on the margins because the talent for this team, it's in here, right? Like Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, all the stars, Juan Soto, Jake Cronenworth, if he can swing the bat better, Ha-Seong Kim having a great year. And then the pitching, I believe in the pitching that the Padres have. It's there. It just has to be better more consistently, right? So if they want to make a run, it's on them. Juan Soto type addition's not walking through that door. So again, this move, I think it makes the Padres a little bit better and it adds some depth. Rich Hill, he adds starting pitching depth. The Padres, I think they needed another starting pitcher because who knows what the heck's going to happen with Michael Wacha health-wise. Just checking again. Okay, don't see anything yet. Our Mariners DFA'd Colton Long for assignment. Whatever. Okay. Pitching-wise, like Michael Wacha, when he comes back, probably mid-August here, don't know how effective he's going to be with the shoulder fatigue and all that, right? Or if just another move happens, or another injury, happens, then a move's going to have to happen. Rich Hill can fill that spot, and it'll be a void because Rich Hill's not as good as those that are in the starting rotation, and he's 43, but it still fills that hole better than I think Ryan Weathers does. I think it fills the hole better than, well, Jackson Wolf's gone, but Jackson Wolf, if he would have still been here and Rich Hill wouldn't have been acquired. So I like that. Reese Kinnear's obviously out, so he's not like this depth option. Maybe they could have went with Jay Groom, but he hasn't made his big league debut yet, so I think you'd rather go with Rich Hill than Jay Groom, right? So it improves the depth. Lugo can be sent to the bullpen too. So if the Padres, maybe they didn't like the returns that other teams were asking for relievers. So Preller was like, hey, I'm not going to go get a reliever here. I'm not going to force it. I like having Suarez, Wilson, and Hader. Cosgrove, you can add him in there. And hopefully those guys don't get hurt. And we'll see what happens. Like I'm pretty confident in those four guys the rest of the way here. It's on them, right? So maybe didn't want to go get a reliever, and instead he's going to say, okay, Lugo can stay in the rotation for now, but if it doesn't work out, we can move him to the bullpen. He can pitch multiple innings out of the bullpen, and that will help the bullpen, and we can have Rich Hill come into the rotation and give us 5 2/3 innings and then hand it off to Lugo or hand it off to someone else, and you can win games that way. So I'm fine with the move. Rich Hill, he's not going to blow you away. He's 43, right? 42, 43, whatever his age is. I think he's the oldest guy in Major League Baseball. Him and Nelson Cruz, the Padres have had both of those guys this year now. And if you look at Rich Hill's numbers, like, again, not going to blow you away, but it's someone that can give you 5-6 innings. He has a 4.76 ERA so far this season, almost 120 innings, over 100 strikeouts, over 20 starts. I mean, it's not a whole lot of impactful innings if you go by like Baseball Reference WAR. He has a 0.3 WAR. But I don't think that's what the Padres are really looking for. They're not looking for Rich Hill to be Blake Snell in this deal. They're looking for Rich Hill to be Rich Hill, be a depth starter, a 5 starter, keep the Padres offense. Hopefully they're going to be doing better when Rich Hill's on the mound, keep them in games. And that hopefully is what will happen here with Rich Hill and the San Diego Padres. Again, Orioles, they just traded for Jack Flaherty. I thought maybe the Padres, that might be a fit there. Phillies, Bailey Falter, going to go to Pittsburgh, it looks like, for Rodolfo Castro. Yankees are acquiring right-handed reliever Keenan Middleton from the Chicago White Sox. Obviously, as I said, Pham going to the Diamondbacks. Dylan Cease is staying in Chicago. He is not going to be traded. And it is 3 o'clock. So officially, we have hit the Major League Baseball trade deadline. I'm going to continue talking about this Padres Rich Hill, Ji-Man Choi news here. And we'll see what moves end up coming down as deals are reported to Major League Baseball. They have to be in by 3 o'clock, and then things probably will get leaked after that. With Ji-Man Choi, this adds a bat. You know, Alfonso Rivas was one of the bench guys. Matthew Batten's on the bench. Matt Carpenter doesn't even belong in Major League Baseball right now. He's not getting at bats. You're facing the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Matt Carpenter's not getting at bats. Like, he's hitting like under 170 this season. It's like Austin Nola, but from the left side. He's just not giving you anything offensively. So I would think that Matt Carpenter is going to be done, but at the same time, you could look at this and be like, well, Alfonso Rivas got traded, so Ji-Man Choi will just take Rivas' spot. But I think the Padres want to have a 4th outfielder on the roster and not have that guy be Matt Batten. So they could DF, I think they'd have to DFA Matt Carpenter. They DFA him and Rivas obviously off the roster. So there's 2 spots there. You bring up Ben Gamel. as the fourth outfielder. I think you could do that. Or Jose Azocar, bring him up. I think he's healthy in AAA. And then you have Hill and Choi replace Rivas on the roster. And those are your two spots that you have open. And those two spots end up being taken, again, by Hill and Choi and by a bench outfielder. I think that's how they would go. And then that way, I believe you'd still be able to have Matthew Batten stay on the roster and Brett Sullivan would still be on the roster, right? Because, or maybe they send Brett Sullivan down now. I don't know if they'll do that because I think when a lefty is on the mound, they're going to want to have Gary Sanchez or Luis Camposano be DHing. Because Ji-Man Choi, if you look at his splits, they're not that great against, it would be lefties. Against lefties, it's not good. He did deal with some injuries this year, but I see that the Padres probably would have Brett Sullivan stay. That's what I would think. Because they're not going to have Ji-Man Choi be the DH every day. And he's not going to play in the field every day, I don't think. Against lefties this year, he's hitting 133. Against righties, he's hitting 224. 789 OPS against righties, 510 OPS against lefties. So he's going to be facing right-handed pitching if he is in the lineup. And so when he's not in the lineup, and let's say a lefty's on the mound, they're going to want Campy or Sanchez DHing and the other guy catching. So I could see Sullivan staying up, and it'd be Carpenter and who did I say? Carpenter and Rivas, because he's not on the roster. Obviously, he's in Pittsburgh. I could see those guys taking up those two spots. I'm just looking down here, 3:03 p.m. here, and no additional Padres moves. It looks like this is it. So again, Jeff Passan tweeting, John Morosi, Dylan Cease not traded. Maybe the Padres would have been interested, but I think that wouldn't involve giving up Dylan Lesko, Robbie Snelling, and the Padres probably were not interested in doing that. I don't blame them. Let's get to I'll get to the chat here in a little bit. If you want to make sure I get to your comment or your question, you can use that super chat button. It supports the channel, makes it very easy for me to see your comment. Thank you so much for anyone who does that. I appreciate that. If you want to join the show, give your thoughts here on deadline day, click that link that is pinned up at the top of the chat, and I'll let you in to talk Padres baseball, talk Major League Baseball trade deadline. If you're surprised by any moves or you like or dislike what the Padres did, feel free to come on the show. The return. So the Pirates, they get, obviously, Jackson Wolf, they get Suero, and they get Alfonso Rivas. To be honest, I had no idea who the heck this dude was, Estuar Suero. Obviously knew who Jackson Wolf was. He came up and pitched that Detroit game, made his Major League debut a matter of weeks ago, and now he's heading to Pittsburgh. He'll probably get a better shot at pitching at the big league level consistently there over the Padres organization. And Alfonso Rivas, we had seen him at the big league level. He got some at-bats sometimes started at first base, maybe if Kim wasn't playing. But I don't think he had a long-term future in the Padres organization. So Wolf, I was fine with him being given up. It's a low 90s fastball. I don't think he had this long-term spot on the Major League roster in San Diego. I think he's kind of like a Ryan Weathers guy, up, down, maybe Reese Kinnear, kind of like that as well. Don't have a high velocity fastball, so location is very important. And I think the Padres right now, where they're at, they want to go with more veteran guys in the rotation. At some point, you're going to have to go with your Dylan Leskos, your Robbie Snellings to be in the rotation, I would imagine, because Peter Seidler's not going to carry a $280 million payroll every year for the next decade. But for now, veterans is the way that they're going, obviously. Joe Musgrove, vet. Blake Snell, vet. Yu Darvish, vet. Seth Lugo, vet. Michael Wacha, vet. Rich Hill, vet. All right, so Jackson Wolf, he just didn't really fit. And he's in Double-A, so just gave him up. I have no problem with that. And I didn't have a problem with Jack Szawinski giving up a few years ago, and he ends up hitting over 20 home runs this year, and it doesn't look that great. But, again, I'm not too pissed off about that deal because, well, I kind of am because it was for Adam Frazier, who didn't really fit the roster. But it's not like that was the Padres' top prospect that they gave up in that deal. And you're like, why the heck are you giving up your top prospect for Adam Frazier who doesn't even fit the team, right? Hold on one second. Need a drink of water. With Ester Suero, I'm fine with giving him up too because I've never heard of the guy. Now, there's some guys that I've never heard of, and they end up performing well with other organizations. But this one, looking at his profile, who this guy is, he's still in rookie ball for the Padres. He hasn't even turned 18 yet. And if he was on like the Ethan Salas level, where we actually like have heard of him and we're watching his minor league games because that's how interested we are in this guy, then yeah, we'd probably be pissed off that, what's his name again? Ester Suero ended up leaving the organization and gets traded in this deal. But that's not, it doesn't seem like this is who that is. And if he ends up performing really well for the Pittsburgh Pirates, then he performs really well for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But the Padres, they're trying to win right now. They're trying to win next year, right? They're not looking for 2026 when Ester Suero maybe reaches the big leagues. And maybe he's going to be like Tatis for the Padres, where they trade him and they maybe don't know really who this guy is. And he ends up being tremendous for the Pirates, right? How Tatis ended up being tremendous for the Padres in the James Shields White Sox deal. But if he does, whatever. I mean, again, I don't really know who this dude is. He's not even 18, hadn't even reached single A Lake Elsinore. Ethan Salas is already at Lake Elsinore. So there's some little things there if you compare the two where it's like, yeah, there's a reason why Ethan Salas is untouchable and Suero ends up getting dealt. Alfonso Rivas, I don't think he has a long-term, again, kind of like Jackson Wolf, not like a long-term permanent role with the Major League Padres. It just wasn't going to happen. I wouldn't compare it to Ty France because Ty France was younger, and I think he had more promising of a future in the Padres organization if he would have stayed. But he was also blocked. Rivas blocked. I mean, not as blocked as Ty France because there was Manny and the Padres hadn't given up on Hosmer at that point. But with this, it's like Crony's playing first base pretty much every day. They were going to get a power-hitting first baseman at some point, you would imagine. And Ji-Man Choi is that guy for now. And hopefully they can get a good bat in the offseason, but that conversation can happen later in the offseason when the time is better for that. Rivas, I mean, he was on a minor league contract with the Padres, and I think he was just fortunate to be at the big league level with the team, to be honest. So I don't look Jackson Wolf, Ester Suero, Alfonso Rivas, Rivas from San Diego. You wish him well, but I'm not like pissed off. I'm not pissed off that these guys have left the organization, Sorry. So those are kind of my thoughts on this. Like, Rich Hill, Ji-Man Choi, I think they can help the Padres on the margins. And the guys that they gave up, whatever. If they end up being great, they end up being great. And, that wouldn't really surprise me just based on some past trades that AJ has made. But for now, based on knowing that this team wasn't going to sell, I wanted them to not just stand pat, but make some move. They made some move, acquiring a starting pitcher, which I think they needed, starting pitching depth. And this is a veteran. And Ji-Man Choi, someone that can DH sometimes, someone that can play first base sometimes. It's okay. Both guys are free agents at the end of the year, Devin. I see that comment in here. Both are free agents at the end of the season. The Padres, John Heyman said earlier today, Padres were in on Justin Verlander. But again, as I said earlier, I didn't really ever see that happening. That was a long shot. Padres, they weren't going to give up someone like Dylan Lesko for a huge contract in Justin Verlander. And I think the Padres, they like the rotation. And I do too. The rotation, I think, is in a good spot based on how guys are pitching. Snell's pitching great. Musgrove pitching better. Darvish, Lugo, Walker, hopefully when he comes back, he'll be good. Add in Rich Hill. I don't think, Justin Verlander in that huge contract and then giving up Lesko and Snelling, I don't think that's I don't think that really made sense for the Padres. And there's a vesting option. So if he reaches like 140 innings or whatever in 2024, I think then he automatically gets 2025 a contract. And I think it's over $30 million for that year. So it's just like, no, thanks. There's already veterans in this rotation. I don't think they need another one on a contract that the Padres didn't give out. And then you're giving up top prospects that you need at some point to help you at the big league level for payroll reasons, right? So that wasn't going to happen. He ends up getting traded to the Houston Astros. Not surprised by that. The Astros, they're trying to win as well. He is familiar with the Astros. Jim Crane likes him. The Astros were willing to give up their top 2 prospects in this deal. The Padres were not going to give up Ethan Salas and Dylan Lesko or Jackson Merrill and Dylan Lesko for Justin Verlander. It just wasn't going to happen. Now, there's another thing that happened. There are some other moves that are happening here coming in after the trade deadline, so I'll get to that here in a second. Eduardo Rodriguez, Detroit Tigers pitcher, he was someone that I think would have multiple years of control. Maybe he obviously was made available because the Tigers and the Dodgers, they had a trade agreed upon, but Eduardo Rodriguez, he had a no trade list, and the Dodgers were one of those. He rejected the trade to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I think he cited family reasons. I saw a tweet recently come down about that, so that makes sense. If the Padres would have agreed to a deal, are the Padres on that list of no trade? I would think so because it's on the West Coast just like the Dodgers are. Or maybe he just hates the Dodgers like we do. And if so, that's great. But he's staying put with the Tigers. That seemed more like family reasons. But it was funny to see the Dodgers get rejected in a trade when Eduardo Rodriguez is on the Detroit Tigers, who are going nowhere. You have a chance to be on a postseason team in the Dodgers, a team that's probably going to go win the NL West, and you say no. It's kind of funny. So that happened. And then some other moves that have happened. I am just reading Twitter. Do we call it Twitter still, or do we call it X? Jack Flaherty to the Orioles. That has been finalized. Dylan Cease not traded. Keenan Middleton to the Yankees. That was the one deal the Yankees made. Mets trade reliever Dominic Leone to the Angels. So the Angels continuing to add around Shohei Ohtani in his last year, probably his last year with the Angels. His last year definitely under contract. That's what we do know. No moves for the Minnesota Twins. And Tigers obviously did not trade Eduardo Rodriguez, according to Ken Rosenthal. David Bednar and Mitch Keller, I think Mitch Keller is his name, with the Pirates. They stay put. Former Padre David Bednar. Mets acquire Phil Bickford and Adam Kolarek from the Dodgers. Those are major league pieces, so Mets are probably giving up something there. Angels are trading Jeremiah Jackson to the Mets for Dominic Leone in that deal. The Miami Marlins get Josh Bell from the Cleveland Guardians for Gene Segura and infield prospect Khalil Watson. That's a pretty significant deal. Former Padre Josh Bell going to the Miami Marlins, who are clearly trying to win, trying to make the postseason here. They acquired David Robertson, acquired Josh Bell. I think I'm blanking on another move that they made here before this deadline. So good for the Miami Marlins for actually trying to win for a change, trying to make the postseason. But Gene Segura, he's a starter for the Miami Marlins. So they're giving that to Cleveland and then another prospect there. Ken Rosenthal said Marlins acquired Josh Bell from the Padres for Garrett Cooper. That's not accurate because Josh Bell wasn't with the Padres. But the Padres, okay, breaking news. The Padres have acquired Garrett Cooper from the Miami Marlins. So instant reaction, live reaction to this news. Garrett Cooper going to the San Diego Padres. If I am not mistaken, this is a guy that can play multiple positions. And this is someone that could end up playing first base more than Ji-Man Choi can play first base or would play first base. This is someone that could DH, and then maybe you would see Brett Sullivan be sent down. Garrett Cooper, he is a right-handed bat. The Padres, they got the left-handed bat with Ji-Man Choi, now a right-handed bat. Garrett Cooper, he can play right field, he can play first base. So I wonder what the Padres ended up giving up here. Ryan Weathers. Okay, so Ryan Weathers is not a San Diego Padre anymore. They finally gave up on Ryan Weathers. Wow. Okay. So a lot of moves are coming down here after the deadline that we are learning of. Interesting. So Garrett Cooper, I think this is a bat that it's kind of like, yeah, he'll be on the major league roster. I think he'll probably take Matthew Batten's roster spot if I had to guess. And if I remember correctly, last year he was an all-star. Last year, he had over 100 hits, drove in 50 runs. OPS was 752. OPS plus was 114. Had a good short season in 2020. Contract-wise, what's his contract situation? I don't think that he's under long-term control here. So this is probably kind of like Ji-Man Choi, but just from the right side. I would guess someone that can DH, someone that can play some first base. And Garrett Cooper seems like he could play some outfield as well. Contract isn't huge, 1 year. And yes, he is a free agent at the end of the season. Making $4.2 million this year, final year of arbitration. So Padres, look, they improved their team at the deadline. They get Ji-Man Choi, they get Garrett Cooper. Those were better bench options. Because I think Cronenworth's still going to play every day. I think Ha-Seong Kim's still going to play every day. Bogarts, Manny, they're going to play every day. So I think it really comes down to, do the Padres want to have Gary and Campy DH every day and the other catch? Or do they want to have Garrett Cooper, Ji-Man Choi share DH duties and send Brett Sullivan down and have Sanchez or Campy, whoever's not catching, have them not be in the lineup and have one of those other guys end up hitting? But yeah, that is a very interesting deal that the Padres, a deadline deal right at the deadline, just like that Jake Marisnick deal a couple years ago. Garrett Cooper and Sean Reynolds to the Padres for Ryan Weathers. Deal is done. That is according to Craig Mish. He covers the Miami Marlins. He's a beat reporter there. Sean Reynolds, I don't think I've ever heard of him. Is he a minor leaguer? It looks, okay, so he's a minor league right-handed pitcher. So, okay, let's look at his, oh wait. It says is he a two-way player? First base, relief pitcher, and right fielder. That's interesting. It says here, I'm looking on his minor league baseball page. He was playing for the Marlins AAA affiliate in Jacksonville, 25 years old, right-handed pitcher, a 2.77 ERA in the minor leagues this year. So maybe he ends up being in the bullpen for the Padres? Has he reached the big leagues? Yes, he has reached the big leagues. So this is the same Sean Reynolds, I think. He was playing first base in 2022. They called him up in July. Called him up in July. What did he do? It looks like he didn't even make an appearance, though, when he got called up. So I think I don't know if he's a two-way player or not. I'm seeing just ERA numbers. No. He is, I'm seeing on his minor league page here, I'm seeing pitching numbers, ERA, 2.77 this year in the minor leagues. And then I'm seeing, I think this is offensive numbers. Yeah. Oh, no, he stopped hitting in 2021. That's what I'm seeing on the minor league page. Okay. So it's a reliever. Sean Reynolds, pretty much going to, I would think, AAA. That's where he was with the Marlins. Ryan Weathers, probably going to go to the majors with the Marlins, or maybe to AAA for them. So they swap those guys, and then the Padres, they get Garrett Cooper to be a right-handed bat, maybe off the bench, maybe play some first base, DH a little bit. I'm fine giving up on Ryan Weathers, to be honest. Like, yeah, he's a depth option. Someone that can go up and down. Had some bright moments, but it just felt like the time was going to run out at some point here. And I think the Padres just wanted to deal him when they could deal him, where a team still thought he was young enough and maybe saw some encouraging things when he was with the Padres organization and could try to get something out of him that maybe the Padres couldn't do. But Ruben Nieblas had a track record of being able to get things out of pitchers when they haven't been able to reach that level of expectation, reach their potential before. So if Ruben can't do it, then can the Marlins do it? It would be a Padres thing for Weathers to go over there and start pitching like Cy Young. But just based on the track record, how he has pitched with the Padres recently, for sure, I was fine having Ryan Weathers go in this deal. I'm surprised that Ryan Weathers is being traded because I didn't think that a move was going to be made. I thought it looked like it was going to be Ji-Man Choi, Rich Hill. Those were going to be the only two guys the Padres brought in here. But they make this move, and Garrett Cooper, he comes in. Maybe Garrett Cooper replaces Matt Carpenter instead of Matthew Batten. Maybe they want Matthew Batten because he can play not just first, but he can play other infield positions. I think he could play corner outfield if they need him to. So maybe Batten stays. But I think Carpenter's gone. I mean, they have two DHs there, Cooper, Choi, and I guess you could add Sanchez or Campy if you want to include him in that. So they'll DFA Matt Carpenter, I would imagine. Oh, another move. Jeff Passan just brought this in. So we got bombs all over the place here. I'm going all over the place, but that's because we just got Scott Barlow. Padres just acquired Scott Barlow. Former Padre Luis Arias just got acquired by the Red Sox. Wow. That's a significant addition for the Padres. They are going in on this season for sure. So this, I don't know, is this a margin? Is this a move on the margins? I don't know, because Scott Barlow, he has control for next year, I believe, as well. Scott Barlow, he was one of the Royals' better relievers. I know that, at least from reports, he wasn't doing that great here at the end. Has a 5.35 ERA, so he's not pitching as great as I think he did last year. Yeah, last year at a 2.18 ERA. 2.42 ERA in 2021. So the Padres are hoping to get something good out of him. Try to get back to where he was in 2022 and 2021. But this improves the bullpen. We wanted to improve the bullpen. So the Padres, they have gotten starting pitching depth. They have improved the bullpen. They have improved the bench depth. They've gotten bats. So AJ Preller has done, I think, a pretty good job here. And it doesn't look like they're giving up top prospects. I haven't seen the return for Scott Barlow yet. Maybe it's a mid-tier prospect, a couple mid-tier prospects. But yeah, this is an interesting move because I was fine with where the bullpen was at, especially the back of the bullpen. I was fine with it. Wilson, Suarez, Hader, those three moves, I was fine with it. Or those three guys, I should say. And then Cosgrove before that, I was fine with that. And then maybe you move Lugo into the bullpen. If Rich Hill ends up being in the rotation as like the 5 starter and Waka he can come back and be healthy. I was fine with it. But now you get Scott Barlow, and I'm even more fine with the bullpen because I would think Ruben Niebla can help get this guy back to what he was. I mean, look at Josh Hader last year. He was really struggling when he came over to the Padres. And they got it fixed. And now he is like one of the best relievers in baseball again, right? So hopefully Ruben and the Padres can help Scott Barlow get back to that sub 2.3 ERA that he had in 2022, or just a sub 3 ERA. And now, if Padres starters can only go 5 innings, you have Wilson for the 6th, you have Barlow for the 7th, you have Suarez for the 8th, you have Hader for the 9th, and you have Cosgrove and Tim Hill and guys like that can come in from the left side if you need them to. And this is a guy, I believe, that has some closing experience. And so if Hader is down, if Suarez is down, Barlow can fill in the 8th, can fill in the 9th. If Barlow is down, then the other guys can come in. So it's more depth in the bullpen. Now, let me see what Scott Barlow's contract looks like here. So he's under control for this year and under control for next year. Final year of our arbitration for 2024. And then 2025, before that season, he will be a free agent. So what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you like the Padres trade deadline? I like it so far. Don't know the return as of yet at this moment that the Padres had to give up for Scott Barlow. But I'm sure Scott Barlow got interest from other teams. I'm sure he did, because relievers are always wanted at the deadline, especially when you're someone that had a sub 3 ERA the last 2 seasons before this season, and you have an additional year of control for next season. So it might be a significant package that the Padres had to give up here. But so far, the guys that they've had to give up, a guy that's not even 18 yet, Esther Suero, Alfonso Rivas didn't have a place. Jackson Wolf probably didn't have a long-term place on the roster. In the last deal that they had in getting Garrett Cooper, giving up Ryan Weathers, he wasn't going to be a starter every day long-term for the Padres in the rotation. It just felt like his time was going to come up at some point. It just wasn't working with the Padres, so maybe a change of scenery will help Ryan Weathers. I'm not torn on giving him up. So that's pretty much what the Padres have given up so far. And in return, they have improved their team on the margins, and they've improved their team not on the – I don't think Scott Barlow, I don't think that's improving the team on the margins. He's not Tatis or Soto or Manny or Bogarts, like playing every day. But this is a guy that can be an impactful reliever for this Padres team. This is a guy, again, that pitched really well before this 2023 season. Actually had the same amount of innings in 2021 and in 2022, almost had the same ERA, 2.42 ERA in 2021, a 2.18 ERA in 2022, a guy that's done it before. He has closing experience. He had 24 saves last year, 13 saves this year. You got to remember there was Aroldis Chapman that was also in that bullpen. And let's look at just to dive a little bit deeper in this move, looking at the game logs here to see if the ERA was just inflated at the beginning of the year. There were some outings where he went 2/3 of an inning, 1 inning where he allowed 3 runs. But most of the time, I mean, there was one blow up against Detroit where he gave up 4 runs. And there's been some outings where he's given up a couple runs. So that probably can't happen down the stretch for the Padres. And until they get him fixed, I'm not going to say that he's like the, closer for this team when Hader isn't available. I think a good spot to have him pitch maybe to start is like the 6th inning, 7th inning. Have him and Wilson maybe rotate there, 6th, 7th inning. And then obviously you have Suarez pitching the 8th. You have Hader pitching the 9th. So I'm liking this move. We'll see what the return is here. I'm trying to find out the return. Remember, Josh Hader, this is something to take into account as well. Josh Hader, he's going to probably leave at the end of this season, free agent at the end of the year. So next year, I think Steven Wilson's under contract. Wilson, Suarez, and Barlow, you can have those three relievers, and Cosgrove if he continues pitching well. You have those relievers at the back end of your bullpen before you even get to the offseason and probably make some additions to the bullpen. So AJ Preller continuing to have a track record of bringing in pretty good relievers, regardless of who leaves, term relievers for the most part. I know Suarez is like 5 years, but for the most part, short-term relievers, maybe not the biggest name. I know Hader is, but maybe not the biggest name when they come in. And hopefully the Padres can get out of Barlow what the Royals were able to get out of Barlow, if that makes sense, in 2021 and in 2022. Yeah, just waiting on the return for Scott Barlow. But again, I'm satisfied with this trade deadline for AJ Preller. You don't have to get stuck with the Justin Verlander contract. You get starting pitching depth with Rich Hill, someone who's been there before, for sure. You add to your bullpen. You get a left-handed bat in Hill and Choi, who's better than Matt Carpenter. You get a bat in Garrett Cooper, and both of those guys are not like long-term guys where you're stuck with those guys, right? Who maybe don't have the best positional flexibility, versatility, you know? They're the rest of the season, and then they're free agents. But the Padres, they weren't going to sell. So if they weren't going to sell, don't stand pat. That doesn't make the team better. What makes the team better is doing these types of moves. Improving the bullpen, maybe improving the rotation, at least adding a little bit of depth, and improving the depth on the bench or in the DH spot or at first base some days, you know? So I like it. And as of now, we'll see what the Scott Barlow return is. As of now, did not give up any big pieces in any of these deals. I mean, who's the biggest piece? Ryan Weathers, Jackson Wolf so far? I'm fine with that. Let's see what some people in the chat think about some of these moves. Again, if you want to join the show, feel free to click that link that is pinned up at the top of the chat. If you want to make sure I get to your comment or your question, you can use that super chat button. Again, trade deadline reaction. The deadline happened about a half hour ago, but there's information that's still coming down. So we're just waiting on some of that information. But yeah, AJ Preller waiting for the last moment to strike here. Don't know when the moves exactly were made, but acquiring Garrett Cooper, acquiring Scott Barlow earlier in the day, acquiring Ji-Man Choi, acquiring Rich Hill. I think this is a solid deadline. Still waiting on that Barlow return. Okay. Let's get to the chat. Devin says, can you discuss the base running blunder more, Ben? It was just stupid. Soto, I don't think he ran through the stoplight yesterday. Matt Williams sent him. Because if there was a stop sign, Williams would not have been standing like at third base. He would have been farther down the line, so Soto would have seen the stop sign. You know, that's what coaches do, or at least that's what I've seen them do. They go further down the line so the runner knows, like, stop, I'm putting the stop sign up. That's not what happened. At least that's not what the camera angle showed. So, yeah, it was just a bad decision by Matt Williams. Like, was he watching the game? Soto hadn't even rounded third yet, and the center fielder had the ball. I get it. It's slippery, force a throw, blah, 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 but that's still a terrible send. He was thrown out by a million feet. I mean, Don even said it on the broadcast. Yep, Pham to the D-back, so Pham probably going to go yard against the Padres when he faces us. I think they still face the D-backs a little bit later in the year. Mr. Robot says, surprised we got anything for Weathers. Good trade. Yeah, I mean, oh, okay. We got a return. we got a return. This is breaking news from Mark Feinsand. The San Diego Padres, they are trading Henry Williams to the Kansas City Royals as part of the return for Scott Barlow. So that's part of the return. We don't know the entire return as of yet. The only return that we know is Henry Williams from the Padres to the Kansas City Royals. So I'm going to do a little bit of research here on Henry Williams. I believe he's a prospect for the Padres. He is with Single A Lake Elsinore. Pitcher, 6'5", 200 pounds. He's 21 years old. He was drafted 2022 draft, 3rd round, 91st overall out of Duke. He has one minor league season. He has a 5.74 ERA so far this year with Single A Lake Elsinore. So the Royals must be looking at this as an upside move. Must like what they've seen scouting him up at Lake Elsinore. So again, I don't know a ton about him. So unless it was like a top prospect, I'm not torn about giving up Henry Williams for Scott Barlow, who was one of the best relievers in baseball last year and in 2021 as well. So Henry Williams going to the Kansas City Royals. And again, with Barlow, it helps the Padres this year. You have Barlow, Wilson, Suarez, Hader, and Cosgrove. And then next year, Hader's probably going to be gone. You have Suarez closing, you have Barlow, you have Wilson, and you have Cosgrove. And then you have some other guys that you're going to probably add as well. So the bullpen, I think it's in pretty good shape for this year and next year. It's just a matter of, can they get consistent leads to be able to roll out that combination from innings 7 through 9 or 6 through 9, right? Can they have a lead where the Padres can get through Barlow, Wilson, Suarez, Hader, right? Can they get through all those guys to get that win? Have Hader get that save, Maybe a major leaguer gets thrown into this deal and gets sent to Kansas City. I don't know. Henry Williams, the Padres' number 10 prospect per MLB Pipeline. So, okay, a top 10 prospect they had to give up in this deal, but it's not top 5. It's not Robbie Snelling. It's not Dylan Lesko. So maybe in a few years, I'm going to regret saying I don't feel bad about giving up Henry Williams. But right now, living in the moment, I like what AJ Preller and the Padres have done here at this deadline. Tom says Padres still won't make the playoffs. Maybe they don't. It's still an uphill climb. I think they're 5 games back still in the wild card, but they're trying. And I think they see that there's some other teams. Sure, there's other teams like the Marlins that are buying. D-backs buying, Cubs didn't trade Bellinger, didn't trade Stroman, took them off the block days ago. But I think they see that those teams are probably not going to play 650 baseball or 600 baseball. And I think the Padres believe that they can play 600 baseball the rest of the way. And a couple teams will falter. A couple teams will stumble. They won't continue to play good baseball. The Padres can pass them. And then maybe, with couple weeks to go, there'll be only a few games back, couple games back, and who the heck knows what will happen. I think that's what the Padres are doing. They're taking that chance, adding some talent here. They went all in to start the year, and I don't think Peter Seidler and AJ Preller wanted to give up on a team that has Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Josh Hader, Robert Suarez, Fernando Tatis Jr., Xander Bogaerts, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth, Ha-Sung Kim. I don't think they wanted to give up on a team that has that talent. I don't think they wanted to give up and have the fan base have all this money spent at Petco Park on the Padres and end up being sellers at the deadline. I don't think Peter wanted that. I don't think AJ wanted that. So they probably viewed like that's not fair to the fans. So they bought. They've made some additions. I think they've made this team better. And they think that this team has the talent to make a run. And the good news is, if the Padres do make the postseason, it's because they will have been playing good baseball because they're going to have to. And just like last year, they were playing pretty good baseball going into the postseason, and they just kept that going. And this could be the same situation this year where they play good baseball going in and they continue to play good baseball. And if they continue to play good baseball, they will have the talent. They have the talent to make a deep run in this postseason, I think. So is it just Henry Williams that's being sent to the Royals here? That's all I've got so far. Padres number 10 prospect, Henry Williams. I don't see any other prospects in this deal. Devin asks, would Barlow be our new closer once Hader leaves? I think it's an option, but I think that they probably want to have Suarez do that, unless they're like, unless Suarez is like, no, Barlow has the closing experience. I'm comfortable in the 8th inning, so we'll just do that. I'm fine doing that. But usually when you give the big contract, 5-year contract to a reliever, usually it's because he's going to be your closer. So I would think that it's going to be Suarez, but if Barlow is closing, that probably means that's because he found it again and he's pitching better. Vince says, I hope Hader stays long-term. Suarez, Hader, 8-9 combo. It's insane. Insane 1-2 punch. Yeah, I agree. Suarez and Hader is great. But I think the Padres are reading in between the lines, if that makes sense. Like, or they're trying to predict the future. I think they have a pretty good pulse on it. And the Padres probably don't want to give $100 million to Josh Hader. So they're like, let's, we can trade a top 10 prospect here with Henry Williams. We gave less than half $100 million to Robert Suarez. He can be a closer. We have Barlow. We have Cosgrove. We have Wilson. I think we're pretty good with the bullpen. If we had Barlow here like they did, we can be even better for this year, and we can still be solid for next year. I think that's how they look at it. They don't want to give Hader over $100 million, and I wouldn't either. I don't blame him. So I would be shocked if Hader returns to the Padres, and it's a deal that we expect Hader to get, like a big Edwin Diaz type deal. Jolene says, the Padres did exactly what they needed to do, not panic. They got a great team, should have gotten Bellinger for minimum. Believe he was let go by the Cubs, not sure on that. No, Bellinger was not let go. He's definitely on the Cubs. The Cubs have been actually playing better baseball, and Bellinger has been playing really well. So, no, Bellinger has not been let go. He's not been traded. He is still with the Chicago Cubs. So, I don't think, the Cubs, probably Preller checked in, but the Cubs, I believe, took Bellinger off of the market days ago. So, that was not an option. But in terms of what you're saying, Padres did exactly what they needed to do, not panic. I agree on that. They made marginal moves. They didn't make a Verlander move, or maybe that would be more like a panic move where it's like, oh, we need a huge piece here. No, they made some moves on the margins, improved the bench depth, got a couple hitters, one righty, one lefty, some guys that can play first, corner outfield. At least Garrett Cooper has done that in the past. I think he could play a little bit of third as well if they need Manny to DH at some point, to give him a half day off. And they improved the bullpen. They improved the rotation a little bit, I think, depth-wise. And at least so far on the guys that they've had to give up, it's not anything where I'm like, gosh, dang it, why'd they give up that dude? Why'd they give up Jackson Merrill? Why'd they give up Dylan Lesko? Why'd they give up Ethan Salas or Robbie Snelling, right? Like, they haven't given up those guys, at least as we know of. So I'm pretty happy with this deadline. And it's on, again, like, Barlow's a good addition. And Garrett Cooper and G-Man Choi, Rich Hill, like, those are names that we've heard of. But if the Padres are going to go make the postseason, it's because of the guys, I think, for the most part, the guys that are in the clubhouse, the guys that were in the clubhouse yesterday, not because of the guys that are going to be in the clubhouse today or later in this Colorado series and definitely during the Dodger series when the guys come back home. Those guys could probably, they will have an impact. They will play, but if the stars are stars, that's where things could get going, right? I think. And it's a low bar that we're setting for some of the hitters, right? Be better than Matt Carpenter, be a better bench option than someone like Matthew Batten or Alfonso Rivas, right? On the relief side, be better than Luis Garcia. I think they have higher expectations for Barlow than Garcia, but you get what I'm saying. Like, be someone that we can trust in a high leverage situation, right? Be someone that can slam the door if it's 7-3 Padres, right? Someone like that. And I think Barlow can do that. All right, quick break and then more deadline talk. Check out Gaglione Bros' famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries on Friars Road. You can visit their website, gaglionebros.com, for their entire menu and enjoy their cheesesteaks and fries at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium as well. All right, so just waiting for any more moves that come down. Still kind of waiting for the rest of that Barlow trade. Is it just Henry Williams going to Kansas City, or is it more than that? Mark Feinsand is reporting Kansas City gets 20-year-old Henry Baez from the Padres. But then Feinsand says, correction, Henry Baez was not a part of the Barlow Kansas City Padres deal. Okay. So still waiting on that. Still waiting on who is a part of that deal. Because for Scott Barlow, I mean, he's an appealing reliever. He's an attractive reliever. And I think, like I said earlier, I imagine other teams were interested in Scott Barlow other than just the Padres. Right? So I think that other teams probably put together a good package. The Padres had to beat that somehow. So they gave up a top 10 prospect in Henry Williams. That's his name, right? Henry Williams. And they're probably going to have to give up more than just that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a major league piece going. Maybe the Royals are like, sure, we'll eat Luis Garcia. We'll take Luis Garcia. He'll be a free agent at the end of the year. And the Padres can get out of that early. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff up against the wall. I don't see them taking on like Matt Carpenter. Would be interesting though. But if they take on Matt Carpenter, then the Padres would have to probably throw in another pretty good prospect on top of Henry Williams, who they already attached there. So just to recap again, so far, Padres, they get Rich Hill, Ji-Man Choi, Garrett Cooper, Sean Reynolds, who may or may not be a part of the big league bullpen, probably in AAA, and Scott Barlow from the Kansas City Royals. So those are the moves. And the Padres, who's the best guy that they've had to give up? Is it the number 10 prospect? Is it Henry Williams? Is it Ryan Weathers? Is it Jackson Wolf? It's not a lot of big guys or guys that I'm like, it's not Lesko, it's not Salas, right? It's not Merrill. I'm fine with what the Padres have given up. And 5 years down the road, if these trades bite us in the butt, well, I'll probably still be like, okay, that sucks. But at the time, remember what we thought, right? We didn't have to give up the big guys. So, and the Padres are trying to win that year, trying to surround the already talented team with some other pieces, trying to make a run and make the postseason. And I understood it at the time. And so I'm not going to get too pissed off about it. Again, that's if like 5 years down the road, this deal ends up not looking too great, right? And by the way, I think I would recommend you checking out MLB Pipeline, Jim Callis, and probably Mad Friars as well. I know they do Padres prospect stuff for a better analysis, better opinion on the guys the Padres gave up, like Jackson Wolf, Esther Suero, I guess they could tell you probably more about Weathers as well, like how he's been doing in the minor leagues. And just some of the lesser known guys that they gave up, right? I'd recommend going to them if you want more on that. But I'm just kind of looking at this from the Padres point of view, the Padres perspective on what they were trying to do. And it looked like they were trying to obviously not sell, stay competitive, show the clubhouse that they're trying to improve the team. And they have improved the team, I think. Make some additions, but also I think they're going to have a message. AJ, Bob Melvin, the message is going to be, sure, we made some moves. We believe in this team, so we added to it. Like, let's go make a run. But it's on you guys in this clubhouse. We believe in these guys in this clubhouse. We didn't go trade for Justin Verlander or trade for someone huge, right? We didn't do that. We believe in the guys in this clubhouse. So that'll probably be the message in there. So we'll see. If you want to join the show, click the link that is pinned up at the top of the chat. If you want to talk some Padres deadline stuff. And obviously I will go through the chat as well. I see John. He is in here. John, what's up? Thanks so much for joining the show.
No problem, man. Happy to be on. You're awesome, Ben. Keep up the good work. I'm
Thank
happy because I'm watching a lot of national stuff, and of course, they're focused on the Yankees and what they can do and everything like that. So I appreciate you giving me the Padres coverage. I'm actually here in San Francisco, so yeah, so it's people don't care about the Padres up here, which I mean I get it, but I'm happy though that AJ Preller wasn't going to the light and being like a little moth, I guess, and chasing the big deal. I'm glad he was a little reserved. I hope someone got into his ear and said, "Hey, let's cool off on Verlander. We can let him. We can go him away, I guess. So I'm really happy with these moves. I'm kind of in the same camp as you. I mean, I think we're at the same. I feel the same way as coming into spring training. The ball and everything like that is in the Padres players' hands, and we just got to wait and see. And I don't know. I mean, I actually wanted to ask if we don't make the playoffs, God forbid, do you think that Preller should go? I mean, he's done everything in his power, but again, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, seeing these moves, like I've had the thought that Preller should go if they miss the postseason with all these expectations, all of this talent, and a lot of this should be on him. I don't think it's all on Bob Melvin or anything like that. I don't think it would be fair to use him as the scapegoat. But seeing some of these moves that he has made, like trading a top 10 guy in the farm system, acquiring Scott Barlow, who's going to be here for next year as well. Like there's just some moves where it's like, yeah, he's not going anywhere. And Seidler loves him. He's under contract through like 2026. And I think Seidler at the end of the day will probably be like, yeah, we didn't live up to expectations, but at the end of the day, it's on me. AJ, was just doing his job, trying to acquire the best talent on paper. He couldn't control what the players could do. And I think Seidler will probably just take the role of like, backing Preller in any way that he can. I mean, he's the one that said AJ's excellence in the middle of the Padres having a terrible stretch against the Reds, Nationals, and Pirates, right? They went, I think, 2-7 against them. So he's going to back him, and AJ's going to stay. And it feels like almost like Brian Cashman with the Yankees. He's just there. He's going to stay till he wants to step down. Something really, really terrible would have to happen for this Padres team, or for Peter Seidler specifically, to part with AJ. And I think the something terrible thing would probably be like missing the postseason 2 years in a row, instead of just like 1 year. Because even though it is interesting, Seidler said it was like once in a century collapse in 2021. Then there was the postseason appearance. Now this year, if they miss the postseason, what is this? Is this a twice in a century failure? Because it's not a collapse, because this team has never been good. They've had some moments, but that's just teasing Padres fans, like I've said. So what is it? Is this it's a once in a century failure, once in a century disappointment of a season? It's not a collapse. I think that postseason run gave Preller a lot of time. And Seidler's going to continue to look back at that and be like, this is the same GM that put that roster together and made that long run. And that was without Fernando. That was without Xander Bogaerts and blah, 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 blah. And so he's probably going to believe, like, it's the same guy. I'm going to continue to believe in him. Look what happened then. He can do it again.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna keep giving him that control, I think.
Yeah, and I think for GMs especially, I mean, it's so hard to know what prospect is going to be good and stuff like that. It's funny. I literally just saw a video yesterday about, the trade history of AJ Preller and his tenure with the Padres. And, of course he's given up, the likes of Trey Turner and Ty France and, all the big names and stuff like that. But I mean, of course, in the moment, you're just thinking, oh, these are just another guy, and
right.
It can come out of anywhere. So I don't know. I mean, as much as, my personal opinion is, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, he's going to be here for a while and stuff like that. But I think Preller and most GMs really, they just don't know until they know really on who's going to be good and who's going to be bad and everything like that. And I think Seidler came out. He said, he likes consistency.
Yes,
and he's not willing to rock the boat. And I can understand that. I mean, we've had 4 managers for a while. I mean, imagine what that does to a psyche of a player and everything like that. But I think my biggest takeaway, I think, from this year especially is that, this first year, I mean, God forbid, like I said, if we don't make the playoffs, whatever, we still have a fantastic core to look forward to. And I could even chalk it up to they just didn't gel as players, maybe egos got the best of them or something of the sort. But I think overall, we still have a great team. And I think Padres fans, we have a lot to look forward to. And I mean, that says something.
Yeah.
that really says something. We have more baseball to look forward to. I think you and I would agree that Padres fans are the first to criticize ourselves, really. And
yes.
That's it's a damn shame, but we've been hurt in the past, so I get it. But I say have hope, Padres fans. We have a lot to look forward to, more than Giants fans up here. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, for sure. I think, there's some days where it's like, man, this team it's so frustrating, so maddening. I mean, last night is a perfect example of that. But then you realize, like you say, like, man, this team has Fernando Tatis Jr., Xander Bogaerts, Manny Machado, Juan Soto, don't know how much longer, but, Josh Hader, Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Jake Cronenworth, I still believe in him. I still think he's a good player. Ha-Sung Kim, like, there's still talent on this roster. There's so much talent. There's more talent than my parents have ever seen for most of their lifetime. There were good teams, 84 and 98, but
2006
for the most part, yeah, right. For the most part, it's not been anything like this. So I think, it can get easy to get, it's easy to get wrapped up in like, oh my gosh, what a disappointing season. I'm going to still harp on that because it has been disappointing, but I don't see that this is going to continue to happen year in and year out. I still think at some point the talent is going to be able to make the postseason and hopefully at one point live up to expectations and get all the way. It's just been, a frustrating time this season. And just because this season, I think it's compounded because we're looking back at some of the things AJ Preller has done and those haven't worked out. And just the results at the end of the day, like we all want the World Series. We all want to make it there. And it just hasn't happened with him. And he's been here for a long time now. So I think some people are like, yeah, I'm just tired of it. Like at some point, you keep having the same person run things and you're going to expect different results. I mean, that's kind of crazy. But Peter believes in him. And I think Peter he also sees the talent that he is paying for literally. And he's like, this is some pretty darn good talent here. This is the guy that has made this building be packed and sold out because it's not because of Corey Spangenberg. That didn't sell out a building. No, it's Juan Soto and Manny and all this talent. That's what sells out the building and makes some money and all that. And he's probably looking at it like, well, like I said earlier, NLCS last year almost made it to the World Series without some of the Padres' best players. And look at all the fans that are showing up. He's built this roster, so I'm going to continue to believe in him. And I don't know if you agree with this point or not, but I just think some of the things that Peter Seidler has gone through in his life, beating cancer and all that, he's just going to be an optimistic guy. And I can't blame him for that, obviously. Like with some of the things that he has had to deal with, I'm not going to blame him for that. And now sometimes I think it's optimism to a fault, but I'd rather have him be optimistic and spend money and all that than him not be and be like Ron Fowler and, do the opposite of that and want to make changes all the time. Because I do believe in consistency, but it's kind of weird to say he likes consistency, but then at the same time, you've allowed your GM to go through 3 managers, and go through all these hitting coaches and all these changes, So
yeah. I honestly can't even imagine the amount of money that AJ has probably asked for, every time. Maybe he probably has like a little notebook of like a receipt. And he's like, hey, maybe this time I need $85 million or $200 million or $300 million. I really like this guy. How about $300 million? So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm very hopeful. I mean, I like to think, I know we didn't go to the World Series and, screw the Phillies. But I mean, man, oh man, Game 4 of that Dodgers series. I don't know about you, but I watch whenever I'm having a bad day, such as yesterday. I will watch those highlights just to make myself feel a little bit better, considering that, it's hard to imagine when they lose by, 1 run or extra innings or whatever. But I think watching those highlights and just the playoff highlights, I'm like, this is a good team. Like the national stage is talking about us. We are making moves and there is something cooking here. So have faith, Padres fans. Have a lot of
definitely. So. John, thank you so much for the time, man. You were great. I appreciate you for coming on.
No problem, Ben. Thanks.
Feel free to come back anytime. All right.
Keep up the good work, man.
Yep. See ya. Have a good one. Okay. We got a super chat in here from Mr. Robot. Thank you so much. This is a very generous super chat. Really appreciate it. Didn't have to do that, but I really appreciate that. Thanks for the great coverage. Ben knows baseball. Next fryer dog. He's saying next hot dog on him. Okay. I appreciate that. If anyone else wants to join the show, feel free to click that link that's pinned up at the top of the chat. I do see Matt Lee is in the chat here, and he's joined the show before. Maybe he has some thoughts on the trade deadline. If you're still here, Matt, feel free to come on if you want to. No pressure, don't have to, but feel free to come on if you want to. Anyone else? If anyone else wants to come on, feel free to. I'm going to keep going through the comments here. And before I do that, actually, let's have a quick break while I look at some social media stuff, and I'll update you on the other side of that, and then I'll finish with going through the comments. I want to tell you about the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. It's Underdog Fantasy. They have great pick'em games and best ball tournaments. In pickup games, just pick higher or lower on 2 to 5 players' stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. You can go cross-team, cross-league, and even cross-sport. Best ball revolves around the draft, which is what every fan loves the most about fantasy, and it eliminates the hassle of having to manage your roster all season long, resulting in a fun and easy fantasy product. How does it work exactly? You enter a contest where you participate in a snake draft against other users. That lineup that you drafted competes against every other draft in the entire contest. The better the combined performance of your team, the more money you win. After your lineup is all played, Underdog will take the best performing players and automatically set them as your starting lineup. That's it. No waivers, no trades, no worrying about who to start or sit. After you complete your draft, your part is done. Underdog Fantasy offers best ball in a variety of ways, including daily contests, weekly contests, playoff contests, and season-long contests. You can either enter into these and compete against thousands of other entrants for huge prizes, or, if you'd like, you can enter into a private draft with friends and family to compete for a smaller prize pool. Underdog keeps it super simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Sign up now by clicking the link in the description or by using the promo code TALKINGFRIARS, and you'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. So if you deposit $100, you get $100 free. If you deposit $10, you get $10 free. All right, I looked on social media and I didn't see any updates Padres-wise on like if there's any additional returns on any deals. So I'll close this out with the comments. AJ Preller is scheduled to speak here around 4:15, I think. So I'll have some updates on what he says. I'm sure on social media at Talking Friars on Twitter and Instagram. We got the Padres coming up at 5:40. Padres Rockies post-game reaction coming up after the game. My pregame thought video is already out, so you can go see that if you have not already. And if you're watching on replay and you missed some of the stuff that I've already gone over, you can go watch like an abbreviated portion of my reaction to the Rich Hill move. And the reported interest at the time this morning of when that happened with Justin Verlander. You can go watch those, and I'll probably be posting clips from this show to the YouTube channel Talking Friars here, just to make it better for some fans, some viewers that maybe don't want to watch the entire thing, because it was kind of weird, reacting in live time. Maybe they just want to watch my reaction to certain moves. So I'll probably clip those and then post those just to make it easier for you guys, make it easier for the audience to view what they want. Some like the whole show, participating in the show. Some probably like just watching the shorter videos. So again, I just like making things accessible for everyone in the audience. And feel free to give feedback. Like, what do you guys like? Do you like the live streams? I'm going to continue doing those, but how long do you like them? Do you like the short videos? Do you like how many I put out? Do you think I should put more clips out from shows? Just let me know, because I want to help the audience out. I want to help you guys out, get the content that you want. Not doing this for me. I enjoy doing it, but I like interacting with Padres fans and doing it for you guys as well. Tyler says Alfaro has been DFA'd. I don't think that he fits the Padres. They have Gary, they have Campy, they have Brett Sullivan, they have DHs they just picked up. So I don't think he's going to get picked up by the Padres. They have Austin Nola in El Paso. Remember that? So I don't think he's coming. Ghost Mafia says, I'm guessing the Barlow trade means Hader isn't coming back. I think even before the Barlow trade, and yes, that's a good conclusion you can make. I don't think he's coming back. But I thought even before the Barlow trade, Hader wasn't going to come back. They're not going to give him over $100 million. After they just gave Robert Suarez almost $50 million to replace Josh Hader in the closer's role when Hader left. I just don't see it happening. Now, maybe Hader is like, I don't care about the $100 million. I want to be with the Padres, so I'll take a much team-friendlier deal. But, this is his time to cash in and set his family up for life. So I think he's going to want to go for the money, and I think he realizes it. Like, this is probably his last year at the Padres, and he can go sign somewhere and be the guy. He's still the guy here, like bullpen-wise, because he's the closer. But I think he can sign somewhere and really be looked at as one of the stars. Maybe he doesn't want to be looked at like that, but even if he wants to be with the Padres, I think he still wants his fair value as well. He's not going to get $100 million from the Padres. I would be shocked to see that. I think that would be stupid by the Padres. Like, Hader's a great pitcher, but how much longer is he going to be great? He doesn't pitch back-to-back-to-back days very much, right? And you already have a good bullpen set up for next year with Barlow, Wilson, Cosgrove, and Suarez. And then there's going to be probably some more additions. And the Padres have had a history of developing, or at least getting the most out of maybe some smaller named arms that cost less than Hader, who will cost $20 million a year if it's like a 5-year, $100 million contract, let's say. You could, Preller's been able to get relievers for like $5 million. $5 million a year for a couple years, something like that. That's the smarter thing to do, I think. Charlie, no. Austin Nola, well, no, he was optioned because he had options remaining, so he was not DFA'd. He's in El Paso right now. I think he just had a walk-off single a few days ago, actually. HW says, how is a 33-year-old hitting 250 depth? That is Ryan Ludwig all over again. But correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan Ludwick was acquired to be a starting outfielder for the Padres and then just really underwhelmed, right? Here, the Padres are getting Garrett Cooper, Ji-Man Choi. Those guys aren't expected to be performing up to the level that Ryan Ludwick, I think, was expected to perform when he was acquired by the Padres. Ryan Ludwick was acquired by the Padres. Let me remember what year that was. 2010? Okay, I was 7 years old, so I don't remember that. Forgive me for that, okay? But what I remember from history and what I've learned is like, yeah, he was acquired, and then he hit 211 for the Padres in 2010. 2011, 238. Like, really didn't do much for the Padres there. Didn't meet expectations, right? But he was expected to start every day, and he had expectations. Does Garrett Cooper and Ji-Man Choi, do they have high expectations? Do we have high expectations for those guys? I don't have high expectations. I guess my expectation is be better than Matt Carpenter. Come through maybe in some clutch situations. Be able to spell Crony and Kim and Sanchez, Campy if they're not DHing. Maybe be able to play right field a little bit with Garrett Cooper. I think he's played that in the past. That's my expectation. I'm not expecting these guys to be, to get on base how much Juan Soto gets on base and impact the team as much as Ha-Sung Kim impacts the team. I'm not expecting that. These guys are like bench guys, fill in at first base, maybe against a certain pitcher, fill in if needed in the corner outfield spot if needed. Like, that's not those. I don't think that compares to the Ryan Ludwick expectations. So, yeah, I think those are depth guys. Okay, another check of social media here. Don't see anything in terms of like more Padres moves or more Padres updates. So I think that's going to do it. Talking Friars episode 436. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. You were entertained by almost an hour and a half of Padres deadline talk there. Again, the Padres, to recap, they get Ji-Man Choi. They get Rich Hill. They get Scott Barlow. They get Garrett Cooper. And they added a minor league relief piece as well. So they got some depth, made some moves on the margins, and they improved their bullpen not just for this year, but for next year as well. So if you're a Padres fan, I think that you should be pretty satisfied with the deadline. Again, knowing what the Padres were going to do. Like, I still think that this Padres team is not going to go all the way. But I know that they weren't going to sell, so I'm glad they didn't stand pat. They've improved the show. They've improved the team in the show is what I meant to say. So I think you should be happy there if you're a Padres fan. And again, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. Barlow is the exception, but it's mostly going to be on the players that are at the big league level already. The guys that are already in the lineup. The guys that couldn't bring in a run with the bases loaded and no outs yesterday. Those are the guys that are going to be leaned on and will decide if this Padres team makes the postseason. I don't think it's going to be Garrett Cooper or Ji-Man Choi providing this huge impact to this team. They're supplemental pieces. So it's up to this current roster already. And these guys hopefully will just help and maybe will get a few wins, and that can help the Padres just get into the postseason, right? And it can be a success. So we'll see. Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section, obviously, on YouTube. You can tag me on social media at Talking Friars on X, Twitter, aka, and Instagram. With your thoughts, do you like this trade deadline? Do you not like it? Do you think this team's going to be a postseason team? And I'll have the post-game reaction coming up after the game. Again, that's it. Talking Friars episode 436. Thank you so much for the time, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the night. Hopefully the Padres get a win. And there we go. Have a great rest of your night. Go Pods.